You're welcome to Akahi Tutors. We shall be treating a few questions from JAMB CRS, questions of 2000. We have a few questions here. Number one question. Joseph called the name of his firstborn Manasseh, meaning God has dash. Remember the story of Joseph, the son of Jacob. He called his firstborn son Manasseh. What's the meaning of the word Manasseh? We have options here. A, God has made him forget his hardship and his father's house. And B, made him not to forget his brothers and his household. C, rescue him from the hands of Potiphar. And D, made him fruitful in the land of his affliction. The correct answer is A. God has made me forget my hardship and my father's house. We see that in the book of Genesis chapter 41, in verse 51. We see that, we remember that Joseph made this statement when he was on a strange land, in the land of Egypt. The wife given to him by Pharaoh, that's Asenath, the daughter of Pharaoh, gave birth to the child Manasseh. And we remember the brother of Manasseh, Ephraim, which means God has made me fruitful in a foreign land. So we should not remember, and we should remember that they come together, they are twins. The two children are twins. Let's go to the second question. The second question. Now therefore lighten the hard service of your father upon us, and we will serve you. This request was made to Rehoboam because We should not be confused because of the name Rehoboam and Jeroboam. The two names sounds similar. Rehoboam is the son of Solomon, while Jeroboam is a servant to Solomon. He was one of the members of the inner circle of Solomon. That was why God said he will take the kingdom from Solomon and give it to his servant, not his son. And we remember before the division of the kingdom in 930 BC, God had already used Prophet Ahijah to give the prophecy of the division of the kingdom. Let's see what occasioned this statement. Now therefore lighten the hard service of your father upon us, and we will serve you. The Israelites went to Rehoboam to reduce the burden. We remember that Solomon put hard burden on the Israelites, and when his reign was over, and the next person to succeed him was Rehoboam. So the Israelites went to him that he should listen to their plea. They need some relief. But instead of Rehoboam to give them a favorable answer, he gave them a very bad answer that got them annoyed, and the kingdom was destroyed. Let's see the options. Now therefore lighten the hard service of your father upon us, and we will serve you. This request was made to Rehoboam because of what? A, the people had another person in mind. No, that's not the answer. The people didn't have any other person in mind. B, the people wanted to test his wisdom. This request was not meant to test the wisdom of Rehoboam. C, of an impending doom or revolt. No, the request was not to give him any hint about any impending revolt or any doom. And the people wanted some relief. The question is, the people wanted some relief. Relief from what? Relief from what had been happening earlier. The hardship, the burden that their father Solomon placed upon them, especially in the process of building the temple of God, and even through the sacrifices and all the cultic rites offered to the foreign gods, which was not the God of Israel, Yahweh. So the correct answer is the people wanted some relief, but instead of giving them relief, Rehoboam didn't give them relief, and the kingdom was torn. Remember Prophet Ahijah, when he was even demonstrating, when God sent him. He took his robe and tore the robe into 12 pieces, representing the 12 tribes of Israel, and the 10 tribes which was reserved in the north, and 2 tribes. Because of the promise of God's covenant to David, the 2 kingdoms were given to Israel, to David. That's to the Davidic dynasty. And we remember that the prophecy that somebody from the tribe of David will always be in Rome. That is why we have the southern kingdom, which capital was Jerusalem. That's Judah, also called Judah, while Israel is in the north, also called Samaria. So when we say Samaria, we know that we are referring to the northern kingdom, and when we say Judah, we are referring to the southern kingdom. We see this quotation in the book of 2 Kings chapter 12, 4 and 14. That's chapter 12, 4 from 4 to 14. We see it. Let's go to the next question. The next question, we see this quotation, "You are the man." This statement by Nathan made David immediately. Remember the story of David, is promiscuity with Bathsheba during the time he was supposed to be at battle. At the time of prosperity, we see David strolling at the roof of the palace when his eyes caught sight of that beautiful woman, the wife of Uriah, having a bed, and David laid with her, which was against the sin of God. And we remember that Uriah was an Hittite. He was not an Israelite. Instead of David to bring the message of God, the religion of Yahweh, to another country, another land, he didn't do that. He slept and gave a bad image. He slept with Uriah's wife and gave a bad image of the God of Israel to the Israelites, to the people of Hittite. And God was angry with this, and God sent the prophet Nathan. You remember that Nathan started with a parable. We can see that in 2 Samuel chapter 12. The statement was made in verse 7 that you are the one. You are the one. What David did was frowned at by God, and God was angry with David for doing so. And the prophet itemized the prophecies, which are prophecies of punishment from God. We can see that one in chapter 31, and the following chapters also contain the fulfillment of the prophecies. We see the fulfillment of the prophecies. The Bible tells us in the book of 2 Samuel chapter 12, we see it in chapter 15, how Amnon raped Tamar. In chapter 13, Amnon raped Tamar. In chapter 14, we see Absalom rebellion against David. And we also see that as the God has spoken through the prophet Nathan, that the sword will never depart from the house of David. We can see the children of David fighting and killing one another. In fact, Absalom even rebelled against his father David, that his father had to run away from the palace. He didn't even wear a shoe. He forgot to wear a shoe. His father, his son, Absalom, rebelled against him. So we can see the consequences. Even Absalom even laid with David's wife at the rooftop, that same top where he was looking at the beautiful woman. The immediate consequence of this was the death of the son, because you can see any question that can ask you the immediate consequence of the sin of David with Bathsheba, and the sin is adultery. The immediate consequence is that God struck the child to death. And after that, we see that Amnon raped Tamar, the sister of Absalom. Later, 2 years later, Absalom avenged his sister's death by killing Amnon. And thereafter, Absalom rebelled against his father. Eventually, he died. And there is no good father who would be happy to hear bad news of the death of his child. It's something sorrowful and bad for David. This is consequence of disobedience to God. Let's see the question. You are the man. This statement by Nathan made David immediately. What was the immediate response of David? A. He ordered him out of the palace. No. He ordered the killing of the child. No. He confessed and asked for forgiveness. That is the answer. He confessed and asked for forgiveness. Did God forgive him? Yes, God actually forgave him. Prophet Nathan said, God, if God has forgiven you, but he had to take responsibility for his sin. So this is contrary to the behavior of Saul. You remember Saul, when Saul was offering the sacrifices, many people used to say that the sin of Saul is not as much as the sin of David. Why I see that David is favored by God, and God said David is a man after his own heart, and Saul is better. But let us consider the sins of Saul. In 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 8, we see Saul, he did something very wrong at Gilgal when the Philistines camped against the Israelites. Advancing towards the Israelites, they were to wait for Prophet Samuel so that Prophet Samuel can seek the face of God, offer burnt and peace offering to God, and listen to God before progressing into the battle. But having waited for 7 days, when King Saul could not wait again for the prophet Samuel, he offered the sacrifice himself. He was not a priest. He shouldn't have offered the sacrifice. And that day, God had intention to stabilize the kingship of David. We should remember that when he was to be anointed at first, the prophet Samuel went there with a jar of with a bottle of oil. A bottle can break. That is something temporary. God was still testing in there. A bottle. But later, when he was to be anointed with a horn of oil, you know, horn is very permanent. If you throw horn on the ground, it doesn't break. And horn is sacrificial. You have to kill the animal. Having killed the animal, then you remove the horn of the animal. That is where the priest will put the oil to anoint Saul. We remember David also was anointed 3 times. David was anointed. So the intention, the delay was even for the benefit of King Saul and for the Israelites. But Saul took the law into his hands. He felt he was powerful. He could achieve victory over the Philistines without seeking the face of God. And after then, when Prophet Samuel made it clear to him that he had sinned against God, instead of King Saul to apologize, he just angrily went on his own way. This is contrary to the attitude, the repentant and contrite attitude of King David when he was told by the prophet Nathan that he had sinned against God. King David confessed his sin. He apologized. But Saul went angrily. Not only that, when he was to destroy the Amalekites, and even when in the place of persecuting David, he killed the family of priests, he killed the priests, he did a lot of abomination and abominable sin, and later he went to a medium. He abandoned God. When King David fasted for 7 days, he prayed for forgiveness, and on the 7th day, God killed the boy, that's the child. David cleaned up his face and he went to the temple and praised God. But look at King Saul. When he was abandoned by God, he went to a medium. So let's see what King David did. Was he immediately confessed and asked for forgiveness. That means that when we confess our sin and we ask for forgiveness, God is always happy to forgive us, although we may bear some responsibility as natural consequences of our sin. Let's go to the next question. The next question is, one of the consequences of Saul's disobedience was that what we said earlier is a precursor to this question. One of the consequences of Saul's disobedience was that we have explained the ways that King Saul sinned against David. Let's now see the consequences. Number 1, the Philistine killed him. He killed himself. The Amalekites killed him. his armor bearer killed him. Look at this statement. One is only one of these statements that is true. The Philistine killed him. The Philistine didn't kill Saul. B, he killed himself. Yes, he killed himself. He was frustrated. He got to a point where he could no longer move forward. So in that quagmire, he had no option. And he felt that the only option and the best option available to him was to kill himself. And we can see the answer to this in 1 Samuel chapter 31, verse 4. Saul killed himself. That's 1 Samuel chapter 31. Chapter 31, verse 4. He requested that his armor bearer kill him, but he refused. And he killed himself, not his armor bearer that killed him. Let's take notice of that. Let's see the next question. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be still. This statement was made by Moses when what's the answer? We have A, the Egyptians were pursuing the Israelites before the Red Sea. B, Israelites were standing before Joshua. C, Israelites were standing before King Pharaoh. And D, Israelite chariots were crossing the Red Sea. The answer to this question is A, the Egyptians were pursuing the Israelites before the Red Sea. And we can see the answer to that in Exodus chapter 14. Exodus 14, verse 13, B. We use B to mean the latter part. It's a long verse. The latter part, towards the end of the verse, we see it where God told the Israelites through prophet Moses that be still and know that I am God. That the Egyptians, you see, now you shall see them no more. You can see God demonstrating his power. Why did God choose to lead the Israelites through the Red Sea? See, my ways are not your ways, my thoughts are not your thoughts. God wanted to demonstrate his omnipotence and his omnisapience. Is all powerful, is all knowing, and nobody can in any way figure or predict how God will work in any situation. It's all powerful. So you can join us on this link, Akahi Tutors. We have our address displayed on the screen. Thank you.